In the heart of the galaxy, where stars burned like ancient lanterns, floated the emerald spire of Zelathis, home to the Zenthari Empire, a civilization so old it remembered when planets were still forming. Princess Lyra stood alone on her balcony, her violet skin catching the light of twin suns, her silver eyes distant and unreadable. She was the last of her bloodline, the final heir to a throne older than memory, and every noble house in the quadrant had sent their finest sons to win her, and for 3 full cycles they came in ships of polished obsidian and living crystal. They wore armor woven from starlight and cloaks spun from comet tails. They bowed low and spoke in honeyed words of eternal devotion, of shared destiny, of glorious futures built on their union. But Lyra turned them all away one after another without hesitation or regret. Lord Kale of the Iron Maw arrived first, his warship blotting out the sky. He offered her a fleet of dreadnoughts as a wedding gift, enough firepower to crush rebellions across 5 systems. Prince Vorin of the Crystal Hive followed, his body shimmering with fractal patterns. He promised to rewrite his genetic code to match hers, ensuring their children would be flawless. Commander Jarek of the Void Riders came last, his voice like thunder. He swore undying loyalty. If only she would sit beside him on his throne of conquered worlds. She refused them all. The court buzzed with confusion, then anger, then fear. The Council of Elders grew. Restless without an heir, the Empire risked fracture. Rival houses sharpened their claws. Whispers spread like wildfire. Some claimed she was cursed. Others said she sought a mate beyond mortal reach. But the truth was far quieter, far more human deep. In the underbelly of the spire, where the air smelled of oil and ozone and the walls dripped with condensation, lived a human named Lily. Humans were barely considered sentient by Zenthari standards. Their species had only recently stumbled into space, their technology crude, their culture chaotic. They were granted observer status out of pity. Not respect. Lily had arrived on a refugee transport after her colony ship was torn apart by solar flares. The Empire took her in as a charity case and assigned her to janitorial duty in the lowest maintenance sectors. She wore a faded gray uniform 2 sizes too big, her brown hair tied back in a messy knot, her hands rough from scrubbing floors and patching broken pipes. She spoke little and asked for less, but she saw things others missed. While nobles schemed in gilded halls, Lily worked in silence. She fixed a leaking coolant line with wire and hope. She caught a falling data crystal before it shattered. She rerouted power during a blackout using parts salvaged from scrap bins. No one thanked her. No one even noticed, but Lyra did. It began with a flicker, a moment during a routine inspection when Lyra passed through Sector 9 and saw Lily elbow deep in a ventilation shaft, humming a soft tune. Something, earthborn and strange like wind through dry grass. "You should not be here," Lily said without looking up, her voice muffled by metal. "I know," Lyra replied. Lily wriggled free, wiping grease from her cheek with the back of her hand. "You're the princess, aren't you? Then why are you down here talking to a janitor?" "Because you saved the Eastern Wing last week," Lyra said when the oxygen recyclers failed. "You bypassed the entire system with a jury-rigged pump made from a food processor and a toy motor." Lily shrugged. "It worked. No one else even noticed the problem until it was too late. You saw it before it happened." "I just listen," she said. "Machines talk if you pay attention." Lyra smiled, then a real smile, not the practiced curve she showed diplomats and suitors, but something warm and unguarded. From that night on, she returned again and again, slipping down hidden service stairs in a plain maintenance cloak. They shared meals of nutrient paste and stale bread. Lily taught her how to splice wires. Lyra showed her star maps of forgotten systems. They spoke of loneliness, of duty, of the weight of expectation. Lily never treated her like royalty. She argued with her, teased her, once even flicked a droplet of water at her during a debate about whether poetry mattered more than engineering. "You're impossible." Lyra laughed. "And you're overdressed for crawling through ducts." Lily shot back. As weeks passed, something quiet and real grew between them. It was not the grand passion sung in Zenthari epics, but something steadier, something built on shared silence and mutual respect. Lyra found herself looking forward to the hum of machinery, the smell of oil, the sound of Lily's voice explaining how a broken circuit could be coaxed back to life. Meanwhile, the court grew more desperate. The council demanded an heir soon, or they would choose for her. Suitors grew bolder. Some sent gifts, Others sent threats. One even hinted that war would follow rejection. Then came the day the spire's core reactor began. To fail, alarms blared. Red light flooded the halls. Engineers scrambled, but the fail-safes had been sabotaged by House Mael, a rival faction hoping chaos would force Lyra to accept their prince. The reactor would breach in under an hour. Vaporizing. The entire city panic spread like fire. Lyra raced to the lower tunnels knowing only one person might stop it. She found Lily already suited up in a patched radiation vest, tools strapped to her belt. "You cannot go in," Lyra said, her voice tight. "The core chamber is flooded with ion radiation. I'm the only one who knows the old manual override." Lily replied, "Humans are tougher than you think. But you'll die, maybe. But if I don't, everyone does." Lyra grabbed her wrist, her eyes glistening. "Stay with me." Lily looked into those silver eyes and for the first time did not see a princess but a woman, afraid of losing someone she cared about. "I'll come back," she promised. Then she vanished into the glowing maw of the reactor chamber. Minutes stretched like eons. Finally, the alarm ceased. The light steadied. Lily emerged, pale and trembling. But alive, she collapsed into Lyra's arms. The court watched in stunned silence. The next day, Lyra stood before the council, her voice ringing through the grand hall. "I have chosen my consort," she declared. Murmurs erupted. "It is not Lord Kale, nor Prince Voran, nor Commander Jarek." She stepped aside, revealing Lily in her simple gray uniform, cleaned, but still worn. "It is Lily of Earthout." Ridge followed accusations of madness, betrayal, even treason. But Lyra held firm. "You call her primitive, yet she saved us all. You call her unworthy. Yet she asked for nothing in return. You seek power, but she wields something far rarer, compassion." The elders fell silent for the first time in centuries. The Zenthari saw not a species but a person. In the weeks that followed, Lily refused a throne. She refused silks and titles. She asked only for a workshop and a place beside Lyra. They rebuilt the spire together, not as ruler and servant but as partners. And, when the stars aligned that evening, Lyra and Lily stood on the highest balcony watching twin suns dip below the horizon. "You know," Lily said, "humans have a saying. Love is not about finding someone perfect. It's about seeing an imperfect person perfectly." Lyra took her hand and squeezed it. "Then I see you perfectly." Far below, the city hummed, not with the noise of power, but with the quiet rhythm of something new, something human, something hopeful. And in that moment, the galaxy felt a little less cold. Years had passed since the memory tree first took root, and the Emerald Spire was no longer just a seat of power but a home for many species: humans, Zenthari, and others drawn by the quiet revolution of kindness that began with a janitor and a princess. The school beneath the tree now held hundreds of students from across the galaxy, its halls filled with the sounds of shared languages and clattering tools. Lily still wore her gray uniform, though it was now patched with threads from a dozen worlds, and Lyra walked beside her. Not in royal silks, but in simple cloth woven by students as a gift. But peace, like all living things, must be tended, and new challenges always find a way. It began with silence. Deep space monitoring stations stopped reporting, their signals cut off not by interference but by something deliberate, something that erased data as it traveled the Veil Nebula. Where the first one slept grew dark. Its light dimmed and the echo that once called them home fell quietly. Ra felt the change first in the tree, its leaves drooping, its hum fainter than before. She placed her hand on its bark and sensed a fear. Not her own. Lily checked the Wayfarer's sensors and found nothing, not even cosmic background noise, as if a great hand had cupped the stars and muffled their song. "Something is eating the signals," she said. They called a meeting. Not in the grand hall, but under the memory tree. Elders, students, mechanics, and medics all gathered in a circle. No thrones, no ranks, just people. Elder Nira spoke softly. "The archives speak of a void not empty but hungry. It consumes information, light, memory. It is called the Hollow. Is it alive?" Someone asked. "Not as we know life," Elder Voss replied. "It is a wound in reality, born from ancient wars when civilizations tried to erase each other from history. The Hollow is what remains when forgetting becomes a force. And it's coming here." Lily said. The council wanted to raise shields to seal the spire in light. But Lyra shook her head. "Walls will not. Stop a hunger that eats walls. Then what do we do, Maya asked now. A young woman training to be a starship engineer. We feed it something it cannot digest, Lyra said. Truth Lily's eyes lit up memory. Exactly. They would not fight the Hollow with weapons, but with stories. They gathered every student, every elder, every refugee who had found shelter in the spire, and asked them to share one memory, a real one. Not of glory, but of feeling a child's first laugh, a shared meal after loss. The moment someone chose kindness over pride. They recorded them not in data crystals but in organic threads spun from the memory tree itself. Living recordings that pulsed with emotion. Meanwhile, the Hollow drew closer. Outer colonies reported blackouts not of power, but of thought. People forgot names, faces, even their own names for hours at a time. The Wayfarer was readied again. Not for battle, but for delivery. Lyra and Lily would fly into the edge of the Hollow and release the memory threads like seeds into the dark. It's dangerous, Lily said. The Hollow might consume us tooth and we go together. Lyra replied. They launched at dawn, the spire's people watching from every balcony, not with fear, but with hope as they neared the void. Space grew thin stars, flickered like dying candles, and the ship's systems began to glitch, not breaking but forgetting their purpose. Lights dimmed, engines stuttered. Even Lily's hands hesitated over the control. It's in my head, Lily whispered. I can't remember how to fly. Lyra took her hand. Look at me. Remember our first repair together in Sector 9? You used a spoon. And a dream. Lily blinked. The memory rushed back warm and clear. Yes? They pressed on at the edge of the Hollow. A wall of pure absence loomed, not black but colorless, a place where light went to. Lily opened the cargo bay. The memory threads floated out, glowing softly like fireflies in a storm. For a moment nothing happened. Then the Hollow reacted, not with rage but with confusion. The threads did not vanish. They pulsed brighter, each carrying a heartbeat, a tear, a laugh. The Hollow had only known erasure, but this was creation. It recoiled. The stars returned one by one. But the victory was not complete. The Hollow was wounded, not gone, and it left something behind, a single shard of its emptiness embedded in the Wayfarer's hull. Cold and silent, back at the spire. Scientists studied it, but it resisted all scans. It did not emit energy. It absorbed it. Even light bent away from it. Lily stared at it for hours. Then she did something no one expected. She took the shard to the memory tree and buried it at the roots. What are you doing? Lyra asked. Feeding it, she said. If it only knows hunger, maybe it can learn to be full. Weeks passed. The tree shuddered, then bloomed with silver flowers, each petal etched with faint symbols no one could read. But everyone felt their meaning. Peace, understanding, belonging. The Hollow never returned, but its lesson remained. The galaxy began to change in small ways. Colonies shared knowledge not as trade but as gifts. Warlords laid down weapons not from defeat but from shame at their own cruelty, and children across species played games that mixed Xanthari logic puzzles with human songs. One day, a new ship arrived, not in warning but in wonder. It was small and battered, its hull patched with strange alloys. Its crew unlike any seen before. Tall beings with skin like bark and eyes like deep water. They called themselves the Myceli, and they came from beyond the rim where no maps reached. They had heard the memory tree's song carried on solar winds across dead space and followed it like a prayer. We thought we were alone. They said through a translator, their voices like rustling leaves. Our world was silent for generations until your song reached us. Lyra welcomed them not as strangers but as family. Lily showed them the workshop, and within days they were teaching each other how to weave circuits from living vines and how to power engines. With starlight captured in glass, the school grew again, new wings built not by drones but by hands working side by side. Maya now led a team designing a new class of ship, one that ran not on fuel but on shared purpose, its core a small cutting from the memory tree. Even Kieran, the former heir of House Mael, now served as ambassador to the outer colonies. His gentle nature and skill with old tech making him beloved by all. But the greatest change was in the quiet moments. Lyra no longer stood alone. On her balcony, Lily always beside her. Sometimes they spoke, sometimes they just watched the twin suns set, their hands intertwined. One evening as the sky turned violet, Lily said, "Do you ever miss the old ways, the grand halls?" The silence. Lyra smiled. "I miss nothing because I have everything." Lily leaned her head on Lyra's shoulder and below the spire hummed. Not with the noise of power, but with the steady rhythm of many hearts beating as one. The memory tree swayed in the breeze, its leaves whispering. Stories to the stars and far beyond the rim in places once thought empty. New songs began to rise, carried on winds of hope, born from the simple truth that even the smallest act of care can heal a broken universe. In that moment, the galaxy was not just alive, it was awake, and it was learning to love itself again. The years flowed like starlight, gentle and constant, and the Emerald Spire had become more than a city. It was a promise, a living proof that kindness could outlast conquest, and that listening was stronger than shouting Lyra. And Lily walked its halls not as ruler and consort, but as partners in every sense, their days filled with teaching, mending, and quiet talks, beneath the ever-growing memory tree, whose branches now reached into the lower clouds, and whose roots wound deep into the heart of the spire. But even the calmest sky holds storms yet unseen. It began with a young human boy named Eli arrived on a rescue shuttle from the outer rim. His eyes too old for his face, his hands shaking. Not from fear, but from something deeper. He spoke only one word over and over again. Mother Lily knelt beside him in the arrival bay, her voice soft. "Hey there, I'm Lily." He looked at her, then at the memory tree visible through the high arches, and whispered, "She's gone, who is gone?" The voice that used to sing in my head, the one that told me I was safely. Ra exchanged a glance with Lily. This was new. They took Eli to the school where healers and teachers gathered not to fix, but to listen. Over days he shared fragments of his life. On a remote mining colony where humans lived alongside a quiet species called the Lumari, beings of soft light, who communicated not with words but with shared feeling. They had bonded with the colonists. Their presence, a constant hum of comfort in every mind. Then one night the hum stopped. The Lumari vanished, not dead but erased, as if they had never been, their homes empty. Their light gone, and with them the inner peace. They gave their human friends. Eli's mother had been the colony's bridge, the one who understood both worlds when the Lumari disappeared. She tried to follow their trail into the deep caves beneath the settlement. She never returned. Now Eli was alone, and the silence in his head was louder than any scream. Lyra felt a chill. This was not the hollow, not a hunger for memory, but a theft of connection. Lily checked deep space logs and found more reports: scattered colonies, silent outposts abandoned, not by war, but by loss of something unseen. A shared sense of belonging, a quiet knowing that someone was near. It was as if the universe itself was being unraveled. Thread by thread, they called a gathering again under the memory tree, this time with elders, healers, engineers, and even the myceli whose root networks could sense disturbances in the fabric of space. The myceli elder spoke through rustling leaves. "We feel a tearing not in matter but in bond, the kind that holds families together, that lets strangers become friends, that makes two hearts beat as one." "Something is cutting those threads," Lily said, "and it leaves no trace." Lyra added, "But Eli remembered something his mother once said before she left. The caves are singing a new song, but it has no words, only paint. The caves, they knew then where to go, not with armies, not with weapons, but with open hands and open hearts." The Wayfarer was prepared once more. Maya, now a lead engineer, upgraded its sensors to detect emotional resonance, not just energy, and Kieran designed a harmonic stabilizer using crystals from the spire and vines from the myceli to protect against mental static. Elis insisted on coming. "I know the caves. I know her song," Glira agreed, but only if he stayed in the ship while they searched. They jumped to the mining world, a gray rock orbiting a dying star. The colony was empty. Doors open, meals half-eaten, toys on the ground, but no bodies, no signs of struggle, just absence. They followed Elis' directions to the cave entrance, a wide mouth in the earth humming with a low dissonant tone that made their teeth ache. Inside, the walls glowed faintly with old Lumari light, but it was flickering like a dying pulse. Lily touched the stone and flinched. "It's not empty. It's trapped." "How?" "The Lumari didn't leave. They were caught in a loop, a repeating moment, a fear so strong it froze them in place like insects in amber. And Ella's mother went in to break the loop. They moved deeper, the air growing thick with sorrow until they found her. She stood in a central chamber, arms outstretched, eyes closed. Tears streaming down her face. Around her, the Lumari floated suspended in light, their forms blurred, their song broken. "She's holding them," Lyra whispered. "If she lets go, they vanish forever, but she can't hold forever," Lily said. "Her strength is fading." "Then, we help her." Lily opened her pack and pulled out a small cutting from the memory tree. She placed it on the cave floor and activated the harmonic stabilizer. Kieran's device hummed to life, filling the space with a soft golden tone. Lyra stepped forward and took the woman's hand. "We're here," she said. "You don't have to hold alone." The woman gasped as if waking from a long dream. The Lumari flickered, then steadied. But the source of the loop remained a dark knot in the center of the chamber. Not a creature, but a wound. A place where connection had been severed so violently it created a scar in reality. Lily understood. Then this wasn't an attack. It was grief. Someone had lost something so precious they screamed into the universe. And that scream became a tear. "Who would cause this?" she asked. The woman whispered the name with pain. "The Void Weaver." An old legend, the Myceli had spoken of it. A being born not of flesh but of loneliness. So deep it believed nothing else was real. And if nothing was real, then nothing should connect. It wasn't evil. It was broken. And broken things can be fixed. Lily approached the knot. Not with force, but with the memory tree cutting. She pressed it gently against the dark center and began to hum the trees. Songlira joined her. Then the woman, then the Lumari. Their voices weaving together, not to erase the pain, but to hold it. The knot shuddered, light seeped in. The Void Weaver did not appear as a monster, but as a small flicker of light trembling in the dark. "Why did you do this?" Lyra asked softly. "I was alone," it whispered. "No one heard me, so I made sure no one else could hear anyone." "You are not alone," Lily said. "Look," she showed it the memory tree, the school, the spire, the wayfarer filled with friends, the Myceli network stretching across worlds, the Lumari and humans holding hands. The flicker grew brighter. The loop broke. The Lumari returned to full form, their song whole again. Ela's mother collapsed into her son's arms, sobbing with relief. Void Weaver did not vanish. It stayed nestled in the roots of the memory tree cutting now planted in the cave. Its loneliness soothed. Not by forgetting, but by belonging. Back at the spire, the news spread not as a victory, but as a lesson. They built a new wing in the school, not for engineering or navigation, but for healing connection. A place where those who felt alone could come and simply be held. Elis stayed with his mother, but visited often, bringing Lumari light to share with Zenthari children, who had never seen kindness glow. Lyra and Lily continued their quiet work, one day fixing a broken water line, the next mediating a dispute between student factions, always side by side. One evening as they sat beneath the memory tree, now taller than the spire itself, its leaves shimmering with the stories of 1,000 worlds, Lily said, "Do you think we did enough?" Lyra took her hand. "Enough is not the point. We keep trying. That is what matters." Below, the city pulsed with life, not perfect, not without pain, but full of care. And in that moment, the stars above seemed to lean closer, as if listening. For the first time in eons, the universe did not feel vast and cold. It felt like home. Peace settled over the emerald spire like morning mist, soft and steady. But peace in the galaxy was never truly quiet. It only waited for the next storm to gather. And this time the storm came not from rival houses or broken reactors, but from beyond. The known rim, a signal no one had heard in 10,000 years, began to pulse through deep space. A signal the Zenthari called the echo of the first ones. Lyra felt it first in her bones. A low hum beneath the floor. A vibration in the air that made the crystals in the spire sing in a forgotten key. She stood in the observatory, her fingers tracing star maps that suddenly seemed incomplete. Lily found her there. Eyes red from sleepless nights spent monitoring the Wayfarer's long-range sensors. "You feel it too, don't you?" Lyra asked. Lily nodded. "It's not natural. It's like something's waking up." The council gathered in emergency session. Elders floated in uneasy silence as data streams flooded the chamber. Ancient archives unlocked. For the first time in cycles, the echo matched no known language, no known species, but it carried coordinates: a dead zone near the veil, Nebula, a place even Zenthari scouts avoided. Elder Nira spoke softly. The first ones were not myth. They were our creators. They left when we became too proud, too warlike. They sealed themselves away and warned us never to seek them. Then why are they calling now? Lyra asked. Because something has changed. Elder Voss said, his voice grave. They call only when the galaxy is at risk or when a new kind of heart walks among us. All eyes turned to Lily. She shifted uncomfortably. I'm just a mechanic. You are the one who mended what others broke. Elder Nira said, you who saved without seeking glory. You who bridged two worlds. With kindness, not force, the first ones value such things. Lyra stepped forward. We will go. The council protested the veil. Nebula was unstable, filled with gravitational tides and phantom signals that drove ships mad. But Lyra would not be swayed if the first ones were real and calling. Then silence was not an optionally prepared the Wayfarer again this time, with extra shielding and a modified comm array built from both Zenthari crystals and human circuitry. Maya helped packing supplies. The girl now spoke both languages fluently and dreamed of being an engineer like Lily. Before they left, Maya hugged Lily tight. Come back soon. Always, Lily whispered. The journey into the veil was unlike any before. Space itself seemed to twist. Colors bled into sounds and time stretched thin. For 3 days they saw nothing but swirling gas and broken light. Then on the 4th day they founded a structure not built, but grown from living stone and light. A sphere floating in perfect stillness, at its center pulsed the source of the echo as the Wayfarer approached. The sphere opened like a flower, revealing a chamber within. No doors, no weapons, just an invitation. They entered on foot, the air inside, warm and humming with energy. Walls shifted like breathing skin. And in the center stood a being tall and slender, its form shimmering between solid and mist. It had no face, but they felt its gaze. You have come. The voice was not sound, but thought, echoing in their minds. Why did you call? Lyra asked. Because the old ways are failing. The being replied, the galaxy fractures again, pride blinds, the strong compassion fades. We watched you two. You who chose each other not for power but for truth. You who healed without conquest. You are the answer we hoped. For Lily frowned. We're not special, you are, because you see worth where others see weakness. The being turned to her. Human. You fixed a broken empire not with weapons but with care. That is the oldest magic. Then what do you want us to do? Return home, and teach the way of balance, not rule through fear but lead through listening. Not build walls but bridges. The first ones will watch, but we will not interfere again. The choice must be yours. Before they left, the being gave Lily a small seed glowing. Faintly, it is a memory tree. Plant it where two worlds meet. It will grow as long as hearts remain open. They returned to the spire, changed, not in appearance but in purpose. The council listened this time without doubt, without pride. Lyra and Lily shared what they learned, not as a command but as a request. And so they began in the heart of the lower sectors where Lily's school already stood. They planted the seed. The next morning a sapling rose, its leaves shimmering with silver and green within. Weeks it grew into a tall tree, its branches wide enough to shade hundreds. Its fruit tasted different to each person. Some said it tasted like home. Others like hope. Children gathered beneath it, daily, human and Zenthari alike. Learning not just math or engineering, but how to listen, how to share. How to say I was wrong. House male publicly apologized, sending their youngest heir to study at the school. A boy named Kieran. Shy and clever, who loved fixing old radios. Lily took him under her wing even. The elders changed. Elder Voss visited the tree every evening, sitting quietly as if listening to its whispers. But not all welcomed this new way. Rumors spread in the outer colonies of a faction calling themselves the Pure Blood. They believed the Empire was weakening by embracing primitives. They gathered followers in the dark zones beyond council. Reached their symbol, a broken gear crossed with a dagger. Lyra and Lily heard the whispers but refused to respond with force. Instead, they opened the school to more students, sent aid to struggling colonies, and invited critics to see the tree for themselves. One night as they walked beneath its branches, Maya ran up breathless. A ship just arrived from the outer rim. It's not friendly. They rushed to the observation deck. A vessel hung in orbit, black and jagged like a shard of night. No markings, no signal. It's them, Lily said. The Pure Blood. They're hailing us, Lyra said. On screen. A figure appeared masked in dark metal. His voice distorted. You have defiled the Zenthari legacy with soft hearts and weak hands. Surrender the human in the tree, or we burn your spire to ash. Lyra stepped forward. We will not surrender compassion. Then you will fall. The ship powered its weapons. Alarms blared, but Lily did not panic. She turned to Lyra. Remember what the first one said? The choice must be ours. Lyra nodded. Instead of raising shields or firing weapons, Lyra opened all comms channels across the Empire. Not just to military, but to every home, every school, every workshop, people of the Zenthari Empire. She said calmly, "This is your Empress. I do not ask you to fight. I ask you to remember who we are. We were once proud and alone until someone taught us to care. We were once broken until someone showed us how to fix. We do not meet hate with hate. We meet it with truth." Then she did something no ruler had ever done. She broadcast the live feed of the pure blood ship to every screen in the Empire. And she played the memory tree's Song a Soft hum recorded from its leaves, a sound that carried peace across the Empire. Citizens watched, saw the black ship, saw their Empress standing firm, saw Lily beside her, not in armor, but in her gray uniform. And then something unexpected happened. Ships began to move, not Imperial warships, but civilian vessels, freighters, midships, even old mining rigs. They rose from ports across the quadrant, forming a silent ring around the spire, not to attack, but to shield. The pure blood ship hesitated. On every screen, people held up signs made of light words like "listen" and "together" and "home." The masked leader's voice cracked. "You think kindness will stop us?" No, Lyra said. "But it reminds us what we fight for." Then from the crowd below, a single voice rose. It was Kieran, the boy from House Mile. He stood beneath the memory tree holding a broken radio he had fixed that morning. "My family taught me pride," he said, "but Lily taught me purpose, which is stronger." Others joined until thousands sang the tree's hum, a wave of sound, not of war but of unity. The pure blood ship powered down its weapons. The masked figure removed his helmet, revealing a young Zenthari male, tears in his eyes. "I only wanted to protect our past, then protect our future too," Lyra said. He surrendered, not to force but to feeling. In the days that followed, the pure blood disbanded. Many of its members came to the school, not as enemies but as students. The memory tree grew taller, its roots spreading deep into the spire's foundation. Lyra and Lily continued their quiet work, teaching, showing, leading, not from above but beside. One evening as they sat beneath the tree, Maya asked, "Will it always be like this? Fighting and fixing?" Lyra looked at Lily, then back at the girl. "No," she said, "but as long as there are people willing to listen and hands willing to help, we will always find our way." Lily leaned her head on Lyra's shoulder, and the stars above watched over a galaxy learning to heal. And in that moment the universe felt not just full of light but full of love. Months passed since the reactor crisis, and the Emerald Spire had changed, not in its towering structure or its gleaming halls, but in its spirit. Where once silence ruled, now laughter echoed, faint but real. Where once pride walked alone, now partnership moved through the corridors. Lyra and Lily shared a quiet life away from the grand ceremonies. Lily kept her workshop in the lower levels, not because she was unwelcome above, but because she preferred the hum of machines to the murmur of courtiers. Lyra visited daily, sometimes bringing star charts, sometimes just her presence. The Zenthari people watched with cautious eyes. At first they whispered behind jeweled hands, "How could a janitor stand beside an empress?" But as days turned to weeks, they saw Lily not as a human, but as someone who fixed what others ignored. She repaired broken lifts, rewired faulty comms, and once even coaxed an ancient garden drone back to life using nothing but a spoon and patience. She never demanded respect yet. Slowly it came. Meanwhile, tensions simmered beyond the Spire House. Mail still seethed over their failed sabotage. Their prince had vanished after the reactor incident. Some said he fled. Others claimed he was imprisoned by his own family. But his shadow lingered like a storm waiting to break. An evening as Lyra and Lily walked through the Sky Gardens, a quiet place of floating flora and soft light, a message arrived, not through official channels, but through a coded pulse on Lily's old wrist comm. A human frequency, long thought lost. Lily froze, her fingers trembling over the screen. "What is it?" Lyra asked. It's from Titan Station. She whispered the last human outpost near the Orion Rim. They're under attack. By whom the signal was garbled, but I recognized the weapon signature ion lances, and Theri design Lyra's blood ran cold. Only 3 houses possessed ion lances. House Kale, House Voren, and House Mail. We have to help them. Lily said, her voice firm. We cannot interfere in human affairs. Without council approval, then get approval. The council will say no. They see humans as irrelevant. Then I'll go alone. You cannot. Lyra stepped closer, her eyes pleading. You barely survived the reactor chamber. Titan Station is weeks away through hostile space. I have to, Lily said. If it's House Mail, they're testing us, seeing if we'll protect our own. Our own, Lyra repeated softly. Yes, ours. That night they made a plan, not as empress and consort, but as equals. Lyra would petition the council, while Lily prepared a ship, not a war vessel, but a fast scout modified with human ingenuity, hidden in a forgotten hangar bay. It had been Lily's secret project, a vessel she called the Wayfarer, built from scrap and hope. The council hearing was tense. Elders sat in floating thrones, their faces unreadable. Lyra stood before them, not in royal robes, but in a simple tunic, the same shade as Lily's uniform. I ask not as your empress, but as a voice for those who have none. She said, Titan Station houses 300 humans, mostly children and medics. They have no fleet, no weapons they are being hunted with. Our technology, Elder. Voss spoke, his voice like grinding stone. And what do you propose we do? Wage war over primitives? I propose we uphold justice. Lyra replied. If a Xanthari house attacks the innocent, it shames us all. Silence stretched. Finally, Elder Nira spoke softly. The human saved our spire. Perhaps now we save hers. The council agreed, but with conditions: no military escort, no official support. If they failed, the Empire would deny all knowledge. It was enough. Within hours, Lyra and Lily boarded the Wayfarer. The ship hummed to life, its engines purring like a contented cat. Lily at the controls, Lyra beside her. You sure about this? Lyra asked Lily. Grinned. For the first time in days, I was born sure. They jumped to warp stars, stretching into lines behind them. The journey took 12 days, during which they ate ration bars, played old Earth card games, and talked about things they never had time. For Lily spoke of her childhood on Mars Colony 3. How she used to watch dust storms roll across red plains. Lyra shared stories of her mother who died when she was young. How she used to sing songs in a language no one else remembered. On the 11th day, sensors picked up a distress call, stronger this time. Clearer, they're still alive. Lily said, relief flooding her voice. But so is the enemy. As they neared Titan Station, they saw it. A battered ring of metal orbiting a dead moon. Smoke curled from its hull and debris floated like ghosts around it. And there, anchored nearby, was a Xanthari cruiser. Black and jagged house. Mail's sigil glowing on its side. They're boarding them. Lily hissed. We cannot fight that ship. Lyra said, we don't have to. Lily's mind raced. We just have to be smarter. She plotted a course through the debris field using wreckage as cover. The Wayfarer slipped in silent and small like a shadow. Once inside the station, they found chaos corridors, dark emergency, lights flickering. Bodies lay still, but not all were dead. Some stirred weakly. A young girl no older than 10 clutched a broken toy, her eyes wide with fear. Lily knelt beside her. Hey, it's okay, we're here, the girl whispered. They took the others to the docking bay. House Mail was rounding up survivors, not to kill them, but to enslave them, to prove humans could be tamedly. Ra's fists clenched. We stopped them now. Lily nodded, but not with guns. She pointed to a maintenance hatch. This station runs on the same old grid as the spire. I can overload the main conduit. It'll knock out their ship's tether long enough for us to get everyone out. It's risky. So is doing nothing. They moved fast. Lily crawling through vents, Lyra guiding survivors to escape pods when she could. The girl stayed close to her. Name was Maya. She had lost her parents in the first strike. You're like the stories, she whispered. The Empress who chose a janitor. Lyra smiled sadly. The janitor chose me too. Meanwhile, Lily reached the central junction box, her fingers flying over wires, sweat beading on her forehead. She spliced the overload circuit, set the timer, and ran 3 minutes. She met Lyra and Maya at the main airlock, survivors huddled behind them. 50 souls, thin and scared but alive. The cruiser shuddered as the station's power surged, lights on the enemy ship flickered. Alarms blared across its hull, the magnetic tether snapped. Now Lily yelled. They scrambled into the Wayfarer just as house male soldiers burst into the corridor. The ship lifted off shaking from near misses, but Lily flew like she was born in zero gravity, weaving through debris until they were clear on safe in open space. Lyra activated the emergency beacon, a Zenthari signal. This time not human. Within hours, 3 Imperial dreadnoughts dropped out of warp. Not house male's allies, but loyalists sent by Elder Nira. The cruiser surrendered without a fight. Its captain arrested for crimes against sentient beings back at the spire. The people gathered not in judgment but in awe. The council convened again this time. Not in secret, but in the grand hall before Elder Voss stepped forward, his voice heavy with regret. We were wrong, he said. The human did not just save our home. She saved our honor from that day. Humans were granted full membership in the Galactic Council, not as observers but as equally refused medals and titles. Again she asked only for one thing, a school in the lower sectors where human and Zenthari children could learn together how to fix things, how to listen, how to care. Lyra agreed and helped build it with her own hands. Evenings returned to quiet walks through the sky gardens. Maya now lived with them, a bridge between two worlds. One night, as twin suns set, Lily leaned against the railing. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd stayed a janitor and you'd married a Prince Lyra? Took her hand every day, but then I wouldn't have you. Lily smiled softly, and I wouldn't have found a home below. The city glowed, not with the cold light of power, but with the warm pulse of something new, something built not on bloodlines or conquest, but on courage, kindness, and the quiet belief that even the smallest person can change the stars. And in that moment the galaxy felt not just less cold but full of light.